Hey guys, this is Alex from Wilkinson Audio again. I'm going to show you how to master this endless decline track. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is make a new track. I'm going to hit the folder button to put everything in it, and this is going to be our mastering track. You might wonder why I don't just use the actual master bus to do it, and I'll show you why in a bit. Okay, so we have... Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import a file, which is very dear to my heart. It is a very particular file, if I can find it. Genre reference. It's this Metalcore one, and it is the coolest sound of all time. I will let you hear it now. Just love it. Anyways, what it actually is it's 50 Metalcore songs blended together. And I use that to reference masters, but not actually like the way it sounds, just its spectrum, because it gives us a nice average spectrum that we should kind of aim for when mastering. It'll just let us know if any of our stuff is too bright or too dark compared to a generic metalcore mix here. Actually, I had to change the playback rate to 1. There, that sounds better. Okay, so we're gonna turn that off, because it's we don't really need to hear it. I'll call it Metalcore reference. And you can do this for all genres of music if you want. I mean, like, variation between mixes is not a bad thing at all. In fact, unique mixes are the coolest thing ever. And pretty much the goal if you want to separate yourself as an audio engineer. But we just need the average curve just to make sure that we know our mix is unique or something like that. Like we know it's too bright, and we can verify that it's not harsh and stuff like that. Just good information to know. So we're going to route this to our, we'll call it master check. And this is I don't know any free plugins that do this. Yeah, okay. Route your Metalcore reference to master check, and send it to new channels on 3 and 4. And the send has to be pre-fader because we don't want to hear this. And then put a fab filter, spend $1,000 on all the fab filter plugins is the next step. And then you need Pro Q2. You don't need to do this. Like you could just use your ears and reference and stuff like that. But this is just how I sometimes, if I do something quickly, I'll make sure that it's not just totally out to lunch. So we're going to now send our mastering track also to master check. Also pre-fader post effects. Sorry, I haven't done this in a bit. It's kind of confusing. And we don't want to hear either of those, so we turn the master check off too. But we should get 2 spectrums showing up here at this point. And for this one, when you send the mastering one to the master check, send audio 1 to 2 to 1 to 2. And then we should be able to see both spectrums in a sec here. And we can. So this pink one's ours. The red one is the mastering reference track. And it drops off because if you compress things as an MP3, it cuts off information. I think after 14 kilohertz, it cuts off all the information. So that's what you're seeing there. It's not important. If you ripped CDs or something to do this, you wouldn't have that drop off. The spectrums would look similar. And then anyway, as we're mastering, we're going to occasionally check that master check track to make sure that we're in the ballpark of where we should be. Okay, so to start mastering, let's use Fab Filter Pro L while we're on the series of while we're using plugins that are not free. You could also, I mean, we could just use like Limit or something like that, and just use this, but I don't know. Thought we'd give it some pizzazz. This is just how I kind of normally do it. And we're going to bring the gain of our song up. Here's some sweet settings. Attack does not do what you think it does with the limiter. It's different. For Metalcore, well, I don't really want to teach plugin specific stuff. It's not really important, but yeah. Here's one thing that is important. When you do a master, you should set your out to like negative 0.3 dB or so, and that helps if you have any intersample peaking clips, which is a clip that can actually occur between samples when you have, I think, the anti-aliasing filter that they use when they send like the digital stepped signal out. there's like some kind of anti-aliasing algorithm or filter that reconstructs it back into its sinusoidal form. And if you have two peaks that are close enough in a certain way, you can actually go over 0 in between the peaks. And this and usually those offshoots won't be more than like this amount. So if you set your output to negative 0.3 dB, chances are if you have any of those peaks, they still won't go over 0, and it won't technically be clipping anywhere, which is cool. So you don't really want your stuff to clip ever if you can avoid it. And you can also turn on this particular plugin. You can turn on intersample peaking and then oversample it, and then that'll actually catch the intersample peaks anyway, and you wouldn't have to do that. But we'll just do that. Okay, so let's bring this up to a kind of a commercial level first of all here. Okay, whatever. And we'll just move that to where it sounds kind of good. You can tell when it's. I'm just going to turn the master down a bit so this doesn't get too loud. You can start hearing severe distortion. You can hear this is not a good setting. We really want to, keep it clean and clear and under control. Keep it clear cell. I'd say that's probably a good range there. We have about 5 dB or 6 dB of gain reduction, and it's coming in at under this negative 10 RMS kind of level, according to this plugin. And that's, to me, sounds like an okay level of loudness. I usually add, a lot of people do stuff like this. They'll add some kind of saturator or whatever. I use this SDRR Klanghelm one a lot, and I'll just do master mix bus enhancer. And for some reason, it always just makes everything awesome. And I'll show you kind of how I use it. I also use it as an overall shaping control because it has like a bass and a treble, and I just kind of slide those till they sound good, and then it kind of gives you like the best possible start for mastering your mix, like the best possible balance. It also has this compressor that sounds pretty cool and does like a nice soft compression on the whole mix. This transients thing, I don't really know what it does. Sometimes I put it here, sometimes I put it here. But I know what it's supposed to do, but yeah. All right, so let's play this back and we'll adjust this. First of all, the compressor. Sounds cool to me. And then we'll do the bass. Sounds cool, and we'll do the treble. That sounds cool. And the drive, I typically just I always end up putting it at 1 on this particular plugin. Okay, so that's some cool stuff. And now we're going to add some EQ and do some EQing and stuff like that. At this point, we should use our master check to see how close we are. If we're in acceptable parameters to what it should be, we could say it's, if that sounds good to us, we could say it's done at that point, and we know that it's not, way too bright or way too dark. So let's check it out here. All right, let's just adjust it so the master check comes in about the same volume level so that we can compare the spectrums easily. Another thing we can do is we can tell it to freeze the spectrums so that it keeps everything at their maximums instead of doing it in real time. Hang on one sec here. So this is telling me that we have too much high-end information, possibly. It's really hard for me to tell on these headphones. I'll trust it. I'll lower the overheads down a dB or two. And then we'll test it again. A lot of that might actually be on the snare. Or it could be, yeah, well, it's hard to tell on these headphones. This is why you'd want to reference with other systems and stuff to know exactly what's going on. It's also saying that we have less information in 700 to 1K than we kind of should. So we can EQ our stuff accordingly on our mastering chain here, and we can check in that area and see if there is a problem with that area or something like that. We can also check our mid-side channels independently, so we can check things that are pan center, or we can check things that are pan side and EQ them separately. So let's switch this to the mid channel, and then we'll listen to this band and we'll see if we think that the mid channel is missing frequency information here. Possibly boost that up a little bit. And we'll do the same with our side channel. We'll also check the side channel, see if it's missing information in that area. It's hard to say. I would say it's probably not, but just to be safe, we'll make it a stereo band and we'll just do a dB there. Another thing we can do is we can just do our regular sweeping for problem areas and stuff like that. And if we check in our master, I think there was So that's actually mostly the snare making it seem like making it look like we needed more information down in the 200 hertz range. I think it's probably okay where it is. This looks like a huge boost, and it actually kind of is. But you have to remember, you have to look at how big your graph is. So how big you're actually viewing it to make sure, you shouldn't, when you're mastering, you probably shouldn't do boost more than 3 dB generally. That's pretty extreme for a master. If you're doing boost bigger than that, just you should look at the mix again and make sure it's not kind of messed up and stuff like that. But I'm not hearing too many issues. That's not to say there aren't many. I did this pretty quickly. I could have ear fatigue. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff that I can't really hear. But another thing you can do that's kind of cool is a lot of people will do this. You cut out some low end and stuff like that, but you put a resonance bump where your kind of kick drum is or your bass or something. check it in mono. I actually ended up adding a compressor in between videos to the bass grit to stop the quick peaks from jumping out. Not really sure. I'm hearing something, but I'm not sure what it is. Another thing, when you're mastering, you'll often find that you have to turn your snare drum up louder. Like, so if you take your master off, your snare might sound right, but when you're mastering, it gets quiet. And to get it to sound like it's the right volume, you'll have to have it sound loud in the mix. Oops, sorry. So here without the master on, it sounds really loud. But then when you turn the master on, it kind of conforms and brings it down and places it back into the mix. So I'm going to hope that this sounds all right, and I guess that's pretty much the whole video, a quick demo of how to mix this song. If you have any questions or anything, just let me know, and I'll see you guys next time for the next project. Cool, take it easy.